All right. Well, I believe we are live. Seems like nobody's in here yet. Perfect. That's the way it should be. Zero viewers the entire hour. Hell yeah. But hello, everybody. Welcome to the Strength Club Weekly Q&A podcast, whatever you want to call this. This week, the topic is going to be powerlifting versus strength training, kind of the whys behind all of this. But we have two lovely gentlemen here with us. We have Chase Lindley up in the top right. How's it going, Chase?
Doing well, guys. How are y'all?
They can't answer you, Chase. They can't answer you. They can say it into the laptop, but you'll never hear them. Any updates with you, Chase? We have a mustache. What else is going on?
I have a mustache. We are up and running with now in OKC. We got done with our intro week, so if you're in the OKC area, come by and let's get trained.
Do you have any studs yet? Do you have anybody who's like exceedingly good who you have high hopes for?
I do have kids, so he is no shit. He's a freshman in high school, like 205. He's my height, so he's 6'1", 6 foot. And first intro session, man, just like, oh, this is how you squat. And like after I performed one, kind of like, you need to squat down like this. He's like, oh, like this, and loaded up 185 to perfection. Press is kind of lagging behind because he's just not really hitting puberty that hard, but his pulls are still pretty strong too. He's pulling like 225.
But he's 205. So he's 205 at what, age 15 or 16?
Yeah.
All right. That'll be a big boy. Yeah. That's the mark of coaching an athlete, by the way, is if you can just do it in front of them and then they do it again. And they're just like, oh, okay, I think I got that.
Yeah.
That's what you're
looking at. Are you gonna take him to the farm to get raw milk for a weekend?
Hell yeah. Be like, hey man, dude, look, just come live with me over the summer, and we're gonna put on like 30 pounds.
Just an athlete house, start grooming him.
Yeah, it's the reverse of a fat farm.
Exactly. On the other end of the spectrum, we have Mick here. How's it going, Mick?
I'm here representing powerlifters, by the way, in this debate.
Representing sumo deadlifts and highly arched bench presses. Yeah. But yeah, Mick is back.
Hex bar deadlifts.
What's been going on with Mick recently?
Not much. Just busy. A lot of music stuff. So I got a university here for music. So just been busy with that, and obviously getting swole, as you can tell. Developing the app, which is we just pushed out an update. So if you haven't updated the app, please back up your data first, because it has been.
What app is it, Mick? Go with that part first.
It's called Grinder.
Oh, okay.
Get on it, jump on it, guys. No, it's obviously the starting strength app. So if you haven't updated your app, please back up your data first and update the app.
What are the new features on this update?
We've got all the NLP phases now, NLP 1, 2, 3, which includes back extensions, chin-ups. We've also got some new female training programs in there, and advanced novice as well. So it should get you through sort of the first year of your training if you're following it properly.
You guys updated the FAQ section and all that stuff yet? Was that in this one too? Okay.
New FAQ section with the most frequently answered questions. Form checks are still there. We've got new videos as well, which not actually videos, they're more just sort of frame by frame animations, just so you can sort of get a refresher on all the lifts while you're at the gym. And so jump on it. If you have any issues with it, just shoot me an email through the support link in the settings.
Even if Nick doesn't seem that excited about it, I'm very excited about it. It's been a long time coming.
We've been working on it for we've been working on this update for 4 months. So I'm a bit like a little bit tired of all the testing and stuff, but it's good. People seem to like it. So
Quattro4 said I missed the side squat video from the original app. Do you remember that, Mick? How long ago was that from?
Yeah. That's
eons. Years ago at this point.
That's years. Who was that actually you, Chase, that was doing that? Was that you that was squatting in the video?
Yeah, I remember like you came to the gym one day and then Nick was like, hey, come meet this Australian. I was like, oh, sweet, he's Australian. So I go over there and we started lifting, and I demoed the squat, the press, and I think the deadlift.
Nice.
Yeah, and Rusty did the power clean. Twink Rusty did the power clean.
Twink Rusty.
Nice. He weighed about 140, and he had like his long hair with an undercut.
Yeah. Next year is going to be obese Rusty coming in. He's going to be like 230, same height. It's going to be great. We got Mr. Sigzrud in the comment. Sigzrud, what time is it there for you? Isn't it like? Is he 7 or 8 hours ahead? Something
I
stupid?
don't know, man. He's in Norway. It's dark.
Bless
it's
your heart,
cold.
Stigsrid. Bless your heart, man.
Wait, no, it's summer over there. It's 3 a.m. and it's sunny. That's,
Don't they have like never-ending summer or some shit over there?
I think
Where it's
so.
like 3
It
hours of
sounds very
darkness.
romantic.
Certainly does.
But okay, all right. I guess we'll dig into it. We're going to start doing form checks. It's 2:35 in the morning, Mr.
That's
Stigsrid.
commitment.
Hell yeah, dude.
I think, do we have a video for Mr. Stigsford as well? I think we actually have a
we
video.
do, yeah.
For him,
We'll pop Stigsford up on the screen then, everybody.
Yeah, so I can get back to bed.
Thanks for watching my desktop. Oh, here we go. Oh, we got some power cleaning action going on.
Nice.
And Mr. Stigsford has a rabbit. This is all very relevant information.
Yeah.
That poor rabbit has no idea what you're doing, buddy.
This is Mr. Stigsford lifting. He actually videoed this. He actually took this at 2 a.m. as well.
Okay. Yeah, we have no way of knowing what time this is at. Ooh, we got the quad shot coming on here.
Oh, quad flex.
Taking out some gains.
Can we get some volume on that?
I don't think the volume is going to come through, but we'll try. Can you hear that?
No.
Okay. We'll just imagine it's a man grunting doing power cleans. All right. Form-wise, man, you were kind of missing the thigh contact portion of the jump. I would go back and reestablish your jump position. And then start working on it from there. Chase, what do you think? What's the most glaring thing on this one for you?
It's the arm pulls, man. And that kind of goes back to what you're saying about the jump position. If you kind of just take this weight down and work on the positions, like the hang position, the jump position, and don't really get past your knee, just finish and nail the jump position, I think you'll be fine.
Yeah, I would work on some hang cleans for sure. So basically just like starting right at the jump position or the bottom of your shorts, making sure your knees are bent, your shoulders are right over the bar, and then think about riding the bar up using just your legs and your back without actually yanking with the arms. Because remember, your arms are just ropes that are attached to the bar. All of the oomph and pull is coming from your back extension, or your hip extension, your knee extension. When it feels like it's just floating up you without making any contact with your thigh, generally it's indicating that it's a little bit too light. You're doing a muscle clean in the first place, but you're missing the jump position or you're doing an arm pull. And at this position this one, it's kind of both. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah. Tell us about your rabbit, man.
Yeah, man. That's all I care about.
Cool. Yeah. I wonder if it's just for food. That could just be a Norway thing. You just kind of keep one in the house in case everybody gets hungry. We have no idea.
It's not big enough.
It's not big enough. I had rabbit for the first time when I was visiting Las Vegas, actually, and that was really good.
So you went to Las Vegas and you ate rabbit.
I did. It was not part of the plan. I swear to God, it was not part of the plan.
Was it good? Right. It's pretty. It's low fat, isn't it?
It's lean.
It was surprising. It was surprisingly good. In the air. Oh, here we go. We got MJDC coming up.
Wait, what's he got going on here?
He's getting set up for the bench.
Look at the bro behind him as well.
Yeah, man, that man's got some breasticles on him.
Yeah. Oh, yes.
He's straddling
the one-handed spot as well. Yeah. This is going to go well.
You think that guy can't curl 255? Come on, he's got it. That was the first deadlift he's done in a week.
Mr. Stigsford said about the rabbit, her name is Venus and she has a ton of attitude.
Venus the rabbit from the Stigsford lifting clan.
She's awesome. Sassy.
We're learning more and more. All right, right here. What are you thinking about this grip, Chase?
It's way too narrow. So this is like your press grip. We generally say at the seminars we want a bench grip that's one hand width wider than the press. But for you, you have these score marks on the barbell there. You're going to be pretty wide, probably about pinky right where that score mark is. Mm-hmm. And that's going to help you get the touch a little bit better. And the touch point on the chest, not so low. I think you need to creep it up a little bit higher, about hit where your nipple line is. And this will help ease out a lot of the problems that you're having.
Yeah, so just pay attention to where the bar moves from here. One of the problems or complications with an overly low touch point is that it's going to try to go straight up, but it will need to go backwards towards the shoulder. So right after it's coming off the chest, it needs to physically go back over the shoulder, and then that's kind of where you're getting stuck, especially on these later reps. It just tries to float back, and then it just ends up not working. So widen the grip out, let your elbows flare. There's nothing wrong with your elbows coming out to a 45-degree angle whatsoever, or a little bit farther than that.
Because MJ, like your humeruses are very short, so the angle that they're going to have is going to be damn near maybe it's going to be about 80, maybe 70 degrees.
Yeah. It would be funny if he ended up doing just an intentional close grip variation. We just didn't know. Let us know if this was intentionally
on them.
low close grip. because it's very possible it could be you're just going for a close grip PR. But in any case, I would definitely recommend widening this out, having yourself use a longer range of motion. Because like the goal for this isn't just to put as much weight on the bar. We'll talk about this actually later, like mechanics wise. You're trying to move your pecs through a long range of motion and actually use your pecs, not like the belly mechanics of heaving it back. Your head is also coming up at the bottom. I would recommend doing a tiny bridge the entire time to help with thoracic extension. Just think about pressing your hair into the back of the bench the entire time. Mick, we can't hear you. Are you talking?
I muted myself. Can you hear me now?
Yourself. Yeah, I can hear you, dude. What's up?
I'm wondering if that guy's actually his coach, because he was giving him some. Get me off the big screen.
No, not at all. Absolutely not.
Because you can see his coach like giving him some cues about, supinating. Yeah. I'm sort of wondering if that guy's actually his coach.
I think he was trying to help him get set up and arched.
Yeah.
I got just like plant the shoulder blades in a position.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Have you ever tried the supinated bench press, boys? Have you guys tried that?
I have not.
No, that doesn't sound like a happy
hot
place.
Take here. It is fun. You can bench surprisingly close to your normal bench. Give it like 3 sessions. It'll be right up there. Yeah.
I feel like
a ton of pack on the clavicular head just because the way that you're rotated. It basically feels like it's all right there.
I feel that's one step closer to suicide than the suicide group.
No, it's way safer than suicide group for sure. We'll get back to these videos. Mick can get off the big screen.
Thank you.
We got another MJDC, or we could do a Malmac here. Oh no, this one will be fun. We'll go through this one. Sorry, Stigzrid, your quads are off. We got Daniel here. Daniel here with someone who I believe is a personal trainer in a Globo gym. Daniel sent this in through the app. And if you'll notice here, we can do a little bit of detective work. Once his hips come up, check out what's on the floor there.
Oh, nice. Wow.
Oh, exactly. He's bringing.
So is this guy the trainer or is this Daniel?
I don't know. I just think that guy in the red shirt in the mirror is the trainer because no one else wears red shirts to the gym. You think I'm wrong there?
I don't know.
That's the classic trainer shirt.
We got some volume on it. Would probably hear what he was saying.
No, there's no clues here, really. It's actually quite silent. But yeah, man, there's a squat rack in there. We can see the squat rack behind the guy in the red shirt. Go over to the squat rack. Yeah, absolutely, for sure. I think this is one of the cases of I can't start with a full-size barbell because I think it'll be a little bit too much weight. I literally think this is a 20 or a 30-pound weight. But go start with a barbell. Unless you are like an Alex Mitchell population type of person, where if you're like 60 plus, 70 plus, something like that, very detrained, then you can probably start with a lighter barbell like this. Or if you're a very small female, but for like a young, robust male like yourself, you'll be totally fine.
And plus, you're looking around, you're looking at the cameraman, you're looking yourself in the mirror. Like your balance issue with this load, if it was heavy, you'd be focused on looking straight down or wherever you're looking at, not to either side of you. So this is
man, and then he presses the thing over his head and to put it back as well. So there's a fair sign he can squat this bar.
Exactly, man. Mechanics wise, what do we think? I want to widen the stance up a little bit outside of the barbell. He's leaning over, knees are out, hips are coming up.
Yeah, and this all kind of, it's the bar position, right? So you don't have the rack to kind of set yourself against it and actually put the bar a little bit lower. You're just tossing the bar on your back. The bar needs to be a little bit lower, and then think about squeezing down on your abs because you're pretty bendy, right? And you can set that low back pretty extreme. So you're gonna have to kind of watch that as you progress in the weights.
Man, I feel like this is what Mick looked like before he started training. This is the spitting image of me.
This is actually me. I wanted the freeform check
a few years ago. Okay, there it is. Yeah. Oh man, I have a feeling, buddy Daniel, that he's going to be one of those guys who is overly anal about form. Don't be. Don't be my man. Just believe in yourself. Believe in the you who believes in you. You'll be okay.
Yep. Hey Chase, check your private message.
Ooh, we got some DMs going on here, everybody.
I hope so.
Yeah. M Reynolds.
The very same.
They look a bit similar, don't they?
All right, hold on, guys. Hold on. You guys see this chandelier in here? That's pretty kick-ass.
That's awesome.
That's pretty.
Is this like a hotel gym where they convert it into like a huge like meat type scenario? You know what I'm talking about?
No. I think this is just people in Europe doing European things. That's all, if I had to bet.
Is this guy in Europe?
They're using colored, fanciful plates, maybe. But his plates say pounds.
I don't know. It says, it says 55 pounds. So no.
Yeah, with D Reynolds. Yeah, let us know where you're at, man. I'm very interested in that. That's a good move as a gym owner. But these are some heavy deadlifts. What do we got? We got we have 3 blues and a red on the bar, so we're looking at like high 3s, something around there.
Yeah, I'd say it's about like
low 4s,
365, 370, somewhere around there.
I can't tell if it's two blues and a red or if it's something.
It's 3 blues and a red, I reckon.
Oh, okay. All right, yeah.
It has a narrow blue on there as well.
Yeah, stance wise, I think these are pretty fine. Chase, what do you think?
I'd like to see his chest a little bit more in extension, or the thoracic rather. Look out a little bit further. I'd say about like 10 more feet. Kind of finish taking out the slack. Because I mean, is that a deadlifting bar that he has, or is that an Ohio power bar?
There's an Erling right in the middle, so not a dedicated deadlift bar.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, it's an Ohio power bar. Yeah.
Yeah, you can still squeeze out way more slack than that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, second rep drifts a little bit away from your legs. I think Chase is definitely onto something there with picking the gaze up a little bit. This is a good deadlift. If you're if you do your Olympic lifts as well, your setup's going to have to change a little bit. If you try to set up this kind of hunched over at the top and then looking straight down, that's not going to work for a clean for sure. But yeah, these are decently strong pulls. I'd be interested to see if you really need the straps for this one. Considering how fast this breaks off the floor, I don't really know if you need straps, but man.
Have you noticed this, Alex, where like you get people into that position and then you have them set their back and they're like kind of refusing to look out? It's almost like it throws them off and they can't breathe or even hold that position. Yeah,
so I think if they brace a little bit too early, that definitely happens.
Yeah.
I think a lot of that's just, sympathetic contraction here in the SCM's area, and it's just harder for them to look up, because they're like traps are already pretty engaged and everything. Same thing with all the upper erectors to get everything as set as it can be, and then moving their head up kind of requires it to relax a little bit. A lot of people will end up hunched over the bar rather than trying to squeeze their chest up. And then I'll always over cue in the direction of like the Olympic lifts and be like, hey, if we want you to be able to clean with this later, we need you to start picking your chest up.
Mm-hmm.
Who else do we got? We already did Daniel Reagan. We can check out another MJDC. Some of the rare MJDCs.
MJDC.
The boy himself. Oh man, this is a gold mine.
Oh, there's so much going on.
Holy shit, there is.
MJDC works out in a very interesting gym.
Is this like Venice Beach or something? It's got to be somewhere like that.
No. Mm-mm. I hope this is just like Midwest America, and this is the only gym for like 200 miles, which is why everybody's here.
He's in South Dakota right now, and he's just fucking.
Yeah.
This is Gold's Gym's Wichita
Monday
Falls.
at 6 p.m.
Gold's Gym, Topeka, Kansas. It seems like we got 3 plates on the bar. Plus some change.
Looks like
so
about like 350 or almost.
Mid 3s. What are we going for? A triple? We got one more in us. Nope. All right. Oh. I think that was a failure on the grip. Do you think he's double overhanding this?
Maybe. He's probably hook gripping it.
Yeah,
I think I saw a lot of chalk around his thumb, but
okay. If you're hook gripping it, just hold on, man. Just let your thumb fall off.
But I also think, MJ, you're kind of pulling this too much with your back, right? You got to let your legs work a little bit harder. See if you can't rotate your toes out just a little bit, kind of get yourself into a little bit better position, shove your stomach down, and then push the earth away with your feet. Really drive those suckers.
It seems like he already has a pretty severe toe angle. Looking at it from once it gets off the ground. Maybe pull the heels in more outside of just shoving the toes out. Because if you're shoving the toes out, it might just be too much rotation. Try and pull the heels in to start. But I think he probably had that rip if he decided to fight through that. But that may not be worth it from a programming perspective. Yeah. Also, shout out to this guy in the back just wearing underwear at the gym. That's awesome, man. He's just getting donged out.
It's probably like one of his girls' pair that he's fucking around with back there.
It's the power move, man. After a certain point, you just descend and wear leggings everywhere. Just no shame, Shakespeare. But yeah.
Should he get some straps, invest in some straps?
I think over under. If you just can't hook grip something and you just want to get your deadlift up, just over under. You'll be totally fine, man. Unless again you're trying to train this specifically for the clean, but I don't think he's doing much Olympic lifting. Yeah, I would definitely pull the heels in from here and think more about pushing the ground away, pushing the floor away with your legs.
Mm-hmm.
Try and initiate the movement with knee extension rather than pulling your chest up into it. Because like a guy with a build like yourself, if you end up rocking behind the bar, it's just going to drift away from your shins.
Yep.
And it's going to make it feel a lot harder than it needs to. But I think this weight, if you kind of get a little knee in the game, it's definitely there for 3 or 4 more reps, for sure.
Got a few comments. Just a few comments in the chat. But no Fap Gamer.
Oh, no Fap
I think
Gamer.
is he the guy that was? Is he the one that did the video about Chase on YouTube?
Yeah, that's that guy.
Like
yeah,
that's
that dude. Yeah,
that's the gender dysphoria.
He said you had he said you had gender
starting
dysphoria.
strength guy. Hell yeah, man! Cheers!
Yeah.
I'm glad to see you in
Nice
the.
watching, dude.
Exactly. We love your content, No Fap Gamer.
Yeah. And he said in the comments, Chase talking about wearing his girlfriend's underwear. Imagine my shock.
Imagine my shock. He's been waiting years for this moment. Oh, I love
That's
it so
right.
much.
Here we go.
I've tried, and they're too small. I can't.
Yeah. Starting strength franchise policy. It's actually written in the bylaws. No Fap Gamer G is allowed to train at all of the gyms for free. So you just show up, man. You just tell them. You show them your YouTube account. Right in the door. Yeah, Ray Gillenwater has been pushing for that really hard, I think, actually. It took a lot
How's
of
Phoebe going anyway, Chase? How's she enjoying Oklahoma City?
And she's doing good. She's realizing that, after a while, you kind of have some coaching rust where like you haven't seen anybody, haven't really said anything coaching wise to anyone. And we've been allowing her to do some intros, and she's like, oh man, I feel like I'm just wrecking people up. I'm like, no, you're fine. Like everyone has that coach rust. It's just with anything, you take some time off of like, playing an instrument, reading or anything like that. You just feel like you're way behind the ball. But no, she's doing good.
Yep.
Coaching rust is definitely real.
Yeah.
For sure. Yeah. We had some other ways. So what the cool dude said, great to see you guys. I am glad to report my recovery from the original misdiagnosed injury is going well. What was that injury? Do you guys remember what happened to Cool Dude?
I don't know.
Man, let us know. And then we had Stickard saying, too bad Alex Mitchell isn't here today. Alex Mitchell had a whole baby. The whole thing came out successfully. It's alive. He's killing it. So he'll be busy.
That's Alex Mitchell.
Yeah. The little quad show was for him. He was theorizing about my thighs, which he'd never seen before in my form checks. But get tighter shorts, man.
we did a whole small calves video on Mr. Stigsrud. I think
the curse of small calves.
Yeah.
Yeah, man, they're super high recovery. Just start training calves like 5 times a week, 3 sets a session. Just add 2 sessions a week constantly.
Start walking on your toes too.
Mm-hmm. Or just be morbidly obese for like 5 years. That's another option. Just gain like 200 pounds and then carry it around for a while.
The fat has to go somewhere.
Yeah, exactly. Thought it was a shoulder injury when it was a herniated disc, ended up in the ER. Man, what the hell does that even mean?
So I guess it was like in his cervical spine, or is it upper thoracic that had the herniated disc area? Because if it's his low back, I don't understand why.
Yeah, so I think what he's saying is that he was having like radiculopathy symptoms through his shoulder or arm, which turned out to be pressure from the cervical spine. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Go check out Gray Steel's strength. Sully did the C7 Chronicles where he was trying to get over his C7 radiculopathy. That stuff's a bitch. I work with a lot of grapplers. I'm a grappler myself. I have a fucked up neck from that same exact thing. It can really suck the life out of you. So you have to really train carefully around that. Go back to some form checks here. Screen is being shared again. No longer Mick is not on the big screen. Let's check out this Bruce press here.
What do you think about NoFap for strength training? Maybe we can jump into that.
Should be doing it constantly, I think, personally.
constant fapping or no fapping?
Constantly.
I don't know. He's probably a Chinese spy, man. I mean, hell, everyone's heard like about the Chinese weightlifting team.
Wait, they were just icing their balls. That's probably because they're fapping too much.
That's probably
no, they're probably icing their balls because if you are depending on how you're built, sometimes like a high pull for a clean or a snatch can land right on the boys. It can land right on the boys, and it is very unfortunate when it happens. All right, so this guy's name is Bruce Press. That's funny. That's his last name.
That's his actual last name.
Yep, Bruce Press.
Oh fuck, dude! This guy has to get to 405 as quick as possible.
Well, he's getting close.
He's getting close.
Yeah.
Bruce, I mean, these are fine strict presses, but I mean, I like to see a little bit more hips. The hips are going to allow you to move more weight. It's going to involve more muscle mass, and overall looks cooler.
Yeah. To start, man, move your rack position up one. Actually, I think if that's the next hole, that may be awkwardly high. This is a very weird squat rack if it has to go all the way up there. Ideally, you could probably move this up a little bit. It's unnecessarily low for you. Get your belt on, get some lifting shoes, widen the stance up. Those will all make the whole thing feel more secure. These are very easy. These are like a sub-maximal warm-up, frankly. Like if you added another 10 kilos on this, I'd be like, okay, that's probably a working set. The things that you're doing to sabotage yourself now are the stance, the squishy shoes, not wearing a belt. So fix those 3 things to start. And then understand that presses can get really slow. So on this rep that he bailed, you should not have bailed on it whatsoever, man. Chase, do you think you should have bailed on this rep? Is it just me, Mick?
No, he's probably throwing it out a little bit too out in front. You just have to grind on the press. It's going to feel like it's not moving, but it's going to just inch upwards and you'll finally lock it out. I think if you think about the shrug a little bit more prematurely, instead of just pushing the weight up, that's going to aid you over that hump.
Mm-hmm. I would even move the grip in too.
Yeah. Because that rep 4 went up super fast. Like it's just,
this is one of the, this isn't a fast lift. It's not like a snatch or not like a jerk, where it's like, we can't press this out. It has to be at the same exact speed every time. You know, like this can grind, and that's totally fine. I think you're overthinking the vertical forearms thing, and you can have vertical forearms out here, or you can have vertical forearms in here. They can both technically be vertical. I would move your grip in a little bit so that your hand is right in front of your shoulder. So not your hand being outside of the shoulder or inside, but right in front of it. I would move the grip in and then reevaluate from there. Yeah. Anything else we're missing here?
On your Bruce press.
Bruce Press. Bruce Press. The man himself. We got some questions here too.
We got some powerlifting questions. Maybe leave that one for the.
Yeah. Well, Federico Nunez Avila. We'll get over that. We'll do that in the second half of the show. And then we have. Hold on, I'll take my screen sharing off. We got to get Mick back on the center. There's the boy. All right. John Gloria said, wonder why I can suddenly do more pull-ups. Then heard you say deadlifting helps. Makes sense. It absolutely does, my dude. It really does. The deadlifts work the back. And Frost 1986 says, so I'm running the program, got to 325 on the squat, and then failed the first set. Should I reset 10%? He did type
fellas 10%.
Fellas 10%.
Yeah, I need 10% more fellas.
Yeah.
So what's the program? Be a little bit more specific, because it could be.
I think he means NLP.
I do too, but I mean, I would still like to see a little bit more, less ambiguity with it. But I mean, it depends. Like, did you sleep enough? Did you eat enough? Did you rest enough? All that stuff. Kind of ask yourself those 3 questions first. And, if you can say yes to all that stuff, the LP. Sorry,
okay.
Yeah. So this is the LP. You're probably just ready for the advanced novice linear progression, right? There comes a point to where you can't just keep adding 5 pounds every single time. You're going to have to kind of, tweak it a little bit and make sure that you're not just bombarded. Like, let's say if you squatted Friday over the weekend, you're not recovered enough to where you're missing Monday's workout in your squat. You need to add a light day in there.
Yeah, I would say literally Google the first 3 questions. Mark Ripito. Yeah. You can probably just type in Mark. That'll be good enough. I don't think anything else will pop up from there. But then answer it honestly, honest self-accounting. So we'll have people who are like, oh, I think I'm at the end of my LP, and they're like, oh, I'm 6'1", I weigh about 155 pounds. I feel like I'm getting a little bit of a gut, and you're just like, what the hell? Come on, like, accept the fact that you'll have to gain weight for this process to happen. Or they won't be answering the questions of like, well, what type of work stress is it? Where it's like, oh, I'm in residency and I am doing night shifts, for example, and I'm trying to do my LP during the day. And it's like, you know what? That may not be a great time to have super high expectations for your lifts. So like, you have to reconcile your stress outside of the gym and then do a lot of honest self-accounting. If you fail the first set and it's the beginning of the week, let's say it's Monday, that's generally a good indicator that's like, yeah, you should be out of any recovery hole from the last week. So you should probably move on to advanced programming. If you are failing first set of like the third day, so let's say Friday, if you're doing Monday, Wednesday, Friday, that could be an indicator that you're either doing a little bit too much on Wednesday, recovery there is not there through the midweek, or you just need to move to advanced novice 2. So it can be different depending on what time of the week it is. But yeah, a lot of self-accounting for sure. And then Stegsrud, and we said Andrew Travis talking about the shrug and the layback on the press. Yeah, the layback on the press definitely makes it more grindable for sure, because it just gets it over the midfoot. So like if you're trying to grind against a rep that is forward or behind the midfoot, it's just hard as shit. The shrug and the layback will rail it over the midfoot, so you can actually do the work on it. All right, let's do one more, and then we can move on to the next topic. Let's check out CB Kramer. Let's see what this guy's up to. Oh, please be
a mile away.
Please be a clean.
Maximize the screen or something.
No, he's just our boy's just really far away.
Jesus.
Was this like some stiff legs?
Yeah.
I think he just misunderstood the setup.
Yeah.
I hope so.
Mm-hmm.
He's missing step, 3. Bring the shins to the bar.
Nick, you handle this one.
Yeah, dude, you got to like drop your shins into the bar, son. Someone stole your hex.
Someone stole your hex.
That was me. That was me just walking past.
Exactly.
I actually yelled it at him at the gym. 5-step setup, son. Get into it. Unless he's actually submitted this as a stiff-legged. What's this guy's name?
CB Kramer.
CB Kramer. I might actually take a look at these notes.
I think they're a little bit too inconsistent to be stiff-legged deadlifts. These are literally different every single rep.
I agree.
Plus, we have the Hamburglar taking the trap bar over here as well. Just running across the camera. He's going to go steal your gains, man. So if you're doing a stiff-legged deadlift, one thing that I really like to do is start with bar a little bit almost behind midfoot and use the same exact cue set for it. So still shoving your hips up and your shoulders up at the same time to get a ton of hamstring tension. If you just start with the bar a little bit out front, it can kind of feel like you have to go from 0 to 100 really quickly with bracing. Whereas if you start with the bar right at midfoot and then let everything go a little bit more backwards, you can feel like you can really load your hamstrings up more. It can feel like much more secure movement. If you're trying to do stiff-legged and it's just starting from a mile out, it can just feel really inorganic.
Nah, he's not. I've got his notes here. He said, I think my shoulders aren't rotated enough forward and I'm shooting my butt too high. Thoughts?
Not the shoulder rotating.
Yeah, you were just not even getting set.
Yeah.
You have to go back and just read the 5-step setup all over again.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, so your shins need to be in physical contact with the bar every single time. So your pre-fight checklist needs to be shins in contact with the bar.
Yeah.
What if he's setting up already, shins touching the bar? If that's the case, then you got to get 1 inch away. But it doesn't really look like it's a miss.
Right. Yeah. So like shins very clearly not on the bar.
Yeah, the first rep, I think he actually does drop his shins in, but he actually pushes the bar forward.
Mm-hmm. And then, towards the end of the set, you just kind of give up on it. But I think you're overly concerned about hip height. Let your hips come down, shove your knees into the bar. You'll figure it out. Or just go do trap bar with that guy in the short shorts on. He looks like he's having fun.
Yeah.
Man. We want to do one more form check? Or no, we have 27 minutes left. We'll get into the other topic here. All right, so we're going to talk powerlifting versus strength training. And then Dalen Reynolds said Fort Huachuca. Oh, Fort Huachuca. Nice. Okay. One of my boys was there pretty recently. Nice. I didn't know they had a chandelier at the gym. You guys handle the comments, and I'm going to get set up for the next part.
Yeah, I'm gonna take off anyway. But it was good to see all you guys.
Okay. When are we going to see Mick next? When are you going to drop your first solo album?
We'll run a poll. We'll run a poll on YouTube, and
okay,
you can vote me back in. Yeah.
Gotcha.
All right. Catch you later, everyone.
All right. Later, Mick.
See you, Mick.
Bye. All right, Chase, my man, you got to handle the comments for me while I get set up.
Awesome. So Infrost, we got Infrost back in the chat. So on the press, if I'm hitting 15 singles and long as the weight is going up, is that fine, or do I need to drop down and hit 5 across each set? It kind of varies, right? So I personally like to see, the press just keep chugging along for as long as it can, right? So we want to add weight to the bar for as much as we can with the press. And if you're doing 15 singles, it is kind of time consuming as it gets heavier. But if you're knocking those out like in 2 minutes or so, I don't see a problem with it. Eventually, you probably need to drop down in the number of singles and then add a lot more volume to it so you can actually progress the intensity with the singles. But I don't have a problem with it right now. What about you, Alex? Have you ever done anything like that?
You're 5'6" at 225. You may be too fat to have the conditioning to do enough work for proper intermediate training. I don't know what your manual labor job is. So if your manual labor job is like you're an electrician versus like your manual labor job is like you're a bricklayer, the actual demands of your job are going to be totally different, right? You could be landscaping all day and burning 5,000 calories a day and actually in pretty good shape and muscular. You could be a plumber and it's really not that hard. So do some accounting there. 5'6", 225, unless you are like, oh yeah, I'm 5'6", 225 and I could pull 600 pounds, that may be a problem for you. Press for 15 singles, it kind of depends, dude. Do you think like, because is that the same guy who's at the LP? That's the LP guy?
Yeah. I think he just may be really milking this.
Yeah. I don't know. So I'm fine with it.
Like you said, it depends.
Like if your bench is working and you can still reliably hit benching PRs, that's totally fine. It's not something as if like it's going to be prohibitive for future training. But just note that. So the positive, the silver lining is you're going to sensitize yourself to volume later on, right? So if you have, if you're doing a phase where it's like for, let's say 6 to 8 weeks, you're only hitting singles on the press for whatever godforsaken reason, and then it's not even an intentional taper, and then you start reintroducing volume sets, you're going to grow like a weed whenever you start doing those volume sets because, you're not very sensitive to that stimulus. That's kind of cool. Do I think that's probably best for progress? No. I think you'd probably get similar results if you hit a few singles and then did back off work as opposed to just hitting 15 singles. Because if you can do 15 singles with the same weight and you're not an already pretty advanced lifter, it's like those first few singles are not really doing much for you, because they're going to be so submaximal. They're going to be like 3 to 4 reps in reserve if you can do 15 of them, You'll notice for a lot of more advanced lifters, if you are doing singles across like that, it's going to be descending. It's not going to be the same weight across, unless you're attempting to familiarize yourself for a weight, or it's like for speed. Like if you're doing, let's say, all right, so, I'm doing clean and jerk practice with 225. I'm just going to make it the prettiest I can make it. That's different than when you're chasing a strength adaptation. I'd probably reallocate your resources for sure. Don't be married to 15 reps. Maybe just move on to intermediate programming. Yeah. And then he said that weird chandelier gym was like a ballroom made into a gym. That's pretty kick-ass, man. Way to go. Pretty cool. That is pretty cool. But yeah, so we're going to start the more boring part of the show. We have powerlifting versus strength training. We're going to talk what basically the difference for them are, why you should care, and how it should inform your training. And if you have any programming questions or anything else in between that, just shout it out in the comments, and then we'll get started with it. Yeah, absolutely, Enfrost. Chase, do you want to kick it off? Do you want to try and define powerlifting for us as it is as used in today's common parlance?
Yeah, sure. So everyone's kind of seen the stuff where it's like, the big names like Westside, the big name lifters out there, like I'll just name a few. You have like Dan Bell, who's super strong. You had Steffi Cohen in there too. You had just a huge number of athletes. They're all competing in 3 contested lifts, right? The lifts that are contested are the squat, the bench, and the deadlift. The thing that kind of changes around with different federations is that some people use gear such as like wraps, suits to allow them to use more weight. Some are drug tested, some are not, and just kind of some politics involved with it too. Yeah. Whereas with strength training, it's pretty general, right? So everyone's doing it that is able to, which is basically everyone on the planet. You have a wider base of exercises that you're training. So not only just the squat, the bench, and the deadlift, but you're doing the press, the clean and jerk if you can, the snatch, and all the assistance exercises too. And your priorities are a little bit changed too, right? And we'll kind of jump into that too on one of these topics.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, powerlifting as a sport, like weightlifting, it is hyper-specific, within the context of these 3 specific lifts, so squat, bench, deadlift, attempting to put the most weight on the bar possible, irrespective of velocity, so they can be as slow as they can physically be, which is quite close to 0. And then with that, with the deadlift, it's just hold it at the top into a hard lockout, with the knees being locked, the back being, the hips being locked as well. With the bench press, it's the elbows being locked. And that's basically it. And then you have a press command at the bottom. So it can't just bounce off your chest, for example. And then for the squat, we have no up command. We have a down command, right? So you have to be able to walk it out in some places unless you're using a monolift. You get a down command. You hit depth whenever you want to hit depth, and then you come back up and you get a re-rack command. Same thing with the bench press. And then depth can be a little bit spotty depending on what federation you're going for, because as the weights get increasingly larger, it gets increasingly hard for the judges to do their job. Because let's say that, someone is squatting 900 pounds at 180. There's going to be a lot of spotters around them. There could be a monolift. There's kind of a lot going on. And we got
not only that, it's just the judges are inconsistent too. It's not always the same judge judging every single meet, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So there will definitely be meets where it's the lifts are a little bit more relaxed than others. Like the press command on the bench will be a little bit shorter or a little bit longer. And that's just part of the game. It's kind of the same thing with Olympic weightlifting too. And frankly, most sports, there's always that little bit of a gray area to it. Mm-hmm. But the first thing I kind of want to cover here is competition versus training. It's a little bit, it's the 4th point on here, but I think it ties into the first one really well. So I think one of the biggest problems with kind of the Instagram world with fitness right now is that people who are not doing the specific sport of powerlifting will see powerlifters and assume that powerlifting is the best way to train, right? Because these people are moving the heaviest weights, which means this is the best way that me, let's say, as a grappler, me as a kickboxer, me as a rock climber, me as just a 40-year-old housewife, this is the best way I should train, because they'll see these people and they'll assume that all of strength training it kind of leads into powerlifting, despite them being 2 pretty separate things. How do you feel about that, Chase?
Yeah, I agree. So everyone kind of gets caught up in thinking that, with powerlifting, it's just, raw strength that is being carried over and everything. Whereas with, your training, let's say for a marathon or something like that, you are training to get stronger, but it's more specific to the sport that you're going into. So you're training for a little bit durable ligaments and stuff like that, and being a little bit more efficient with your force production with each step, but you don't have to do that overkill of now you've added 50 pounds of mass and your time is now drastically longer on a marathon versus you just wanted to squat 500.
Yeah. So basically, I think that a lot of people will absorb the rules of powerlifting and then transfer them to things that are very not powerlifting. Mm-hmm. So it's with starting strength, we have a pretty laid out criteria for what we consider to be effective within the lifts themselves. And then with powerlifting, the criteria is born out of winning the competition. With strength training, there isn't really a winning the competition. So it's we'll make sacrifices to satisfy our criteria to see what we think is the most effective. So it's we know that if we're trying to do the heaviest squat possible, we shouldn't be leaning over as much. The stance should be way wider. There should be less movement on the hips, a little bit less movement on the knee. Everything should be really wide, very vertical. We're making that sacrifice of weight on the bar so that we can move our joints through a longer range of motion, so that we can, use a little bit more muscle mass and basically through a longer range of motion, same exact thing there. Even if that means there's a little less weight on the bar. So it's just I think that whenever people look at powerlifting and they'll kind of assume that, I should transfer these modalities to my training, even though I'm not a powerlifter, I think that's a huge mistake. Yep. Because, the goals of powerlifting are going to inform basically the rules to their training, so it's if you'll see someone who comes in with a squat, like a starting strength squat, and they're in a powerlifting gym, they'll be why the hell are you squatting like that? You're doing way more work than you have to. You've added another 6 to 8 inches to the range of motion or bar flight path, basically. Where it's we actually want you to go through that extra range of motion. Powerlifting may not want you to. And the same thing with the bench press. Same thing with the deadlift too. So the sumo deadlift. My sumo deadlift is always 90 pounds heavier than my conventional, even if I never train my sumo deadlift. My very arched, heaved bench press is again significantly heavier than my relatively flat bench press. And it's just kind of, how much you want to game the system and where, what do you actually want to win at? So Chase, whenever we talk strength training, what do you think the win condition is? Because it's kind of floaty now. So powerlifting, it's winning this sport, it's getting the most weight as possible in these 3 contested lifts for 1 rep. What do you think the goal is for strength training?
Again, that kind of goes back to what are you training for? If you're training for a sport, it's pretty clear about if your training is actually working, because, are you more efficient at your sport? Are you winning more? Are you less fatigued? Are you all this stuff, right? But if you're just you're generally training for aesthetic purposes or anything like that, you kind of have to, be a little bit more scientific with your evaluations, going through like DEXA scans, getting proper measurements and stuff like that. But with powerlifting and stuff like that, you see the athletes, they really don't care about what is happening to them physically. They care about the number, right? And this has really been perpetuated in Westside, where like you see the wall of numbers everywhere. Louis Simon doesn't really give a fuck about his athletes. He cares about the person who has the highest total. And, and that's fine. But, for the general population, they don't really care about how much weight is being on the squat. Now, some people do, but again, it's such a limited scope to where like once they get past like 225, they don't really know where to go now.
Yeah.
Right?
So for someone who kind of deals with a lot of just people who are like, hey, I just want to get stronger. What do you think the most common goal is for someone who walks into like a starting strength gym?
Oh, easily. It's like 2 plates on everything. Like that's 2 plates on the bench is probably the pinnacle of what they're going to think about. Yeah.
Yeah. So why are they training? Why are they coming in the first place? I think more so. Just like health, general health.
Yeah, it's for general health. And they've heard either Ripito say this, or their son, their daughter saying that strength is the most, important aspect to physical life. And, that's being perpetuated everywhere, and that's good. But I think powerlifting kind of goes to the extreme again, and is just in suit of a number instead of actually looking at what's happening on the physical health side.
Yeah, and I definitely think that the force production event for one very, very slow lift is a little bit different than some of the things that we're going for. A lot of the attributes that I'll look for with my athletes is like how much work are they doing across the week and at what quality, as opposed to every 6 to 8 months we're getting one contest day in, and then on that specific contest day they had this weight on the bar with this velocity. Whereas something that I really like to do is to say, okay, 2 quarters ago you were doing this many sets a week. Now you're doing, let's say, 6 more sets on all of your lifts. It's at a higher weight, at a higher quality, and you don't feel like shit for the rest of your week. You can still do all the other things you're doing, So you went from basically at the end of your LP, let's say doing 9 sets of each of your lifts. Now you can handle, let's say, 16 sets on each of your lifts. And then on top of that, you feel better. You look a little bit leaner. You're a little bit more muscular. Those are kind of the less quantitative things. So for someone who's coming out of the novice phase, what do you think the priorities should be? Like basically, because like the choice post novice is, I can specialize in a thing. I can just kind of keep getting stronger. I don't really know why. I can go to powerlifting. I can go to strength lifting. What do you think the common flight path is?
I think it's just establishing goals, right? Because everyone comes in with either like the ambiguous goals of, hey, I want to get stronger. But what does stronger mean to them? Is it a 225 bench? Is it a 405 pound deadlift? Kind of being a little bit more clear and assertive with their goals. And I think after the novice phase, you need to kind of reevaluate your goals, because now with this newfound strength that you have, you can now tailor it into whatever the hell you want. Mm-hmm. If you want to go into being more specific with your strength training, then now we gotta get prepped for weightlifting, powerlifting, all the lifts that we're generally training in the novice phase. Whereas like if you're wanting to do mountain climbing, extreme sports such as that, like snowboarding and stuff like that, then you kind of have to tailor that into your strength training.
Yeah. One thing that I always really like to do for people is just to say, like, pick a thing for a year to be really good at. I like doing it on like birthdays, like pick your birthday skill. It could be cooking, it could be writing a really good email, whatever it is, especially with physical things. Pick a year, try to be really good at it. Even if you do have no interest in it the year afterwards, you'll still have a really good skill. And I think that the rabbit hole that most people end up in with lifting is that they'll be like, okay, since I've taken all this time to be good at the lifting thing, I'm now 6 months into my career. The only thing I can do with that is lifting related, right? And they'll be like, oh, so I have to do powerlifting now, and you'll see this too. And I'm sure a lot of people say this too, like, oh, I don't want to be like a power lifter. I don't want to start lifting because I don't want to be like a power lifter, I don't want to just do the squat, the press, bench, and deadlift because that's like a powerlifting thing. Which is kind of shitty, because it kind of it really obscures the picture for people, like the world of physical training. It's like you're trying to get generally strong so you can do as much shit as you want to do. We want you to be able to go play a game of ultimate frisbee, go and hike with your kids, go and swim, go and do all the physical things that we can enjoy in the world. And I think that powerlifting really taints that, because it'll be like, okay, it's still a barbell, we're still putting weight on the bar, and then people will think that that automatically translates to what you have to do post novice, where it's like post novice world, you do not just have to chase 1RMs all the time, you know. Feel like for a lot of people, it's like, I have guys who are, you know, the lowest rep range we go into is probably sets of 4 maybe. That's just because their normal demands is like, okay, it's, you know, it's their habitual cyclists or their habitual runners, you know, and anything below that's just not super useful for them from a fatigue perspective, you know. And I think that powerlifting definitely kind of gets in the way of that, because people automatically tie them together, where it's like strength training has such more of a broad scope. Chase, you brought up something interesting in the pre-show. You were talking about the demographics of like who is really drawn to powerlifting versus who should be strength training. Do you want to talk about that?
Yeah, so like you see a bunch of young guys doing powerlifting, and you don't really see a bunch of older people doing either or, really, strength training or powerlifting. Now, can either or do them? Yeah, it's totally fine. But I think a lot of the younger crowd kind of gets tied in with social media influence of like, you know, you see Larry Wills out there just fucking going apeshit crazy on a barbell. When in reality, like, you don't know what that guy's training history looks like, what his program looks like, the shit that he's on, if he's on stuff, you know, all the stuff that ties into what he is right now and all the steps that he's had to take, all the sacrifices and stuff. People, just kind of lump that into like, oh, that's a sport. I think that looks cool because look at the effects that Larry has, or, you know, Dan Bell, someone out there. And I kind of want to look like that, or just be as famous and on that podium with him. And then,
can we lose you, Jay? Oh, there you are.
No, you're good.
We lost you.
You got me? Awesome.
Yeah, I got you. Yeah. It's a very important thing, because, you know, again, I think everybody shits on social media. So it's not a hot take to be like, oh, social media bad. You know, it's not very clever. But I think in the world of strength training, like the preface of the Starting Strength book, it really speaks to it. It's just like, regardless of what your activity is, whether your activity is getting up out of a chair when you're 70, or if that's wrestling other people when you're 22, strength is basically the foundation for all of these activities. Strength training, in the way that we consider it, the way that we kind of preach and proselytize, is to facilitate these activities. It's not to facilitate hyper-specific 1RMs. You know, I think those are like quantitatively and qualitatively different. Because it's like, I'll even have guys, one of my guys recently, he's just been having shoulder tweaks constantly with the bench press. We're just going to have to pull the bench press out. You know, that's totally fine. It's going to be one of these things where it's like, all right, we have a million other options. We can use the same exact criteria to solve the same problem. You know, if he was something, or if he was of the mindset of saying, all right, well, you know, I'm a power lifter, so I have to do this specific exercise. You know, you don't really have to. These are again arbitrary things. So it's like, he's not committing to the specific sport. If we can use the bench press as a great tool, we'll do it. You know, because it's a very convenient tool. It matches all of our criteria. But if you have someone who just has a chronic history of shoulder injuries from a specific thing, all right, we're going to take a block and we're going to do dips, push-ups, dumbbell benching, and then we're going to make a shoulder stronger, more resilient, and we can move back to the bench press later. Whereas for things like powerlifting, the scope of it just gets increasingly more narrow as you specialize. And that's a thing that you'll see with high-level bodybuilders and powerlifters. They'll take off big times of the year, big chunks of the year. They'll be like, yeah, I'm just not going to touch the sport for 6 weeks, 12 weeks, so they can just literally just recover from just doing the same thing over and over again. Mm-hmm. They'll go and do other stuff. And then we don't want people, just general people, to run into that. You know, I do not want just a random guy who just wants to be strong for his life and his sport to hit that wall, you know? Yeah. So do you ever run into that, Chase, at the gym? People kind of conflating like what you're attempting to get them to do with powerlifting right off the bat?
A few. And that's kind of goes back into like the older crowd, where they've kind of made up their mind about like, you know, the differences of what they see. And this kind of goes back to the younger crowd too, is that, you know, being young, you kind of just want to try anything and everything because you're just so open with everything, that you don't really see the effects of what we're talking about is the differences, right? The elderly kind of do, or the older population does. But they kind of conflate the two, whereas like powerlifting's bad, you don't want to try it at all. But, you know, they see the extremes of it. And that kind of goes back again to, you know, the contestants doing anything that they can to win and stuff. But they see kind of their own representation of the squat, and that be them Googling a squat, and it's the guys over in West Side with a really wide stance, and then they're like, oh no, I've injured my leg in my groin playing soccer whenever I was younger, and I don't want to injure it squatting. So then they come to me and they're like, I don't want to try a really wide stance on the squat, and then I have to tell them why we're not going to do that and actually show them properly how a squat needs to be performed and stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think that basically anything that's an extreme or basically anything on either end of the spectrum is what's basically going to get filtered to you through content. So when you do see like lifting, or if you just go to Instagram and look up squat, you're going to see probably like fitness thoughts, basically just in, with no clothing on. And then you're also going to see like John Hack or, Dan Bell or anybody like that squatting 1,000,000 pounds. And they're like, okay, these are the only two options that I have. It's going to be one of these two camps. Whereas in reality, it's a much more cloudy picture. So that's the thing where it says like everybody should be strength training, not everybody should be powerlifting. But like, how often do you find that you push your intermediate lifters to competitions? Because it's like, I know you have the weightlifting competition coming up. You have multiple strength lifting meets, done powerlifting meets before. Is that something that you try to find to push people towards for intermediates to give them a sense of direction?
The majority of my clientele, no, man. They just kind of just, again, it's that one goal of I want to just be stronger, but I don't want to compete or kind of tailor my training into being stronger, right? It's this kind of almost like a weird maintenance mode to where we are increasing weight on the bars, but we're not doing anything out of the normal. We're contesting your strength on a 1 rep max every cycle or anything like that. And then usually my clientele will come to me and they're like, hey, I saw this on Starting Strength and like they're having a meet. Would you come and kind of coach me through it? I'm like, yeah, well, let's do it. We'll run a block and kind of prep for it.
Okay. Oh, MJDC, he popped in. He said, hey guys, late logging on, was not trying to do closed grip. I hate the bench press because my shoulders are wonky and my main goal is not to get impingement. You will not get impingement, my man. Yeah, it is logistically difficult to make that happen in most situations. So if you're properly picking your shoulder up, back, and down, you're kind of aiming in this position, it's really not a concern that you have to worry about. So it's like if you, dude, this is he's not, the guy is not his coach or random gym bro. Yeah, go bench with that guy for a while. He has some big chesticles. Maybe he'll just teach you a thing or two. But yeah, man, you gotta let the elbows flare out a little bit more. When you're looking at things like impingement, think like ballistic loading forces. Whenever the shoulder gets kind of past here, like if someone's holding your shoulder blade down and your arm gets cranked up, then you can definitely think impingement. Or you can think doing like if you are bench pressing like shaped like a T. If you were bench pressing like this, with your arms being the top of the T for like 2 years, and you're like, oh man, my shoulders have developed chronic pain, then maybe you can make an argument for it. But it's not an overnight thing, man. You're close gripping 230 for 255 for like a double. Yeah, 255 for like a double. Just go back down to like 205, get your grip out, and you'll be totally fine, man. Anything else you want to touch on, Chase, for powerlifting versus strength training?
Every little faction you go to or group kind of has their own little weird quirks and their own kind of it's kind of like their own little cultish things, right?
Yeah.
That's just with any kind of find which one that you like and kind of distinguish, are these healthy behaviors, are they not healthy behaviors, and make your assumption from there.
Yeah, that's a good point. Is that like depending on what group that you're going to tag yourself into or kind of follow along with, they're all going to have their logical inconsistencies no matter what, because every group does. You just definitely have to tease out what's what for you. And I think with powerlifting, avoid finding a school or methodology that just confirms your biases. Really avoid that, where it's like the greater strength training world. You kind of have to think about it. It's like, I just kind of want to make my body more useful for general life activity. It gets a lot less culty there for sure. And then we have Melchior hop in the comments. He said, hi, I complained about shoulder pain when squatting. Hopefully that was resolved, man. Hopefully that was resolved for you. But I think we're going to end it here. Chase, where can we find you at on the social medias?
Just Instagram, Chase Lindley. And then if you're ever in the Oklahoma City area, come by the gym. Just look up Starting Strength OKC and just Google Maps it. Yes.
If you use anything else other than Google Maps, you will not find it. Exclusive agreement with Google Maps. Exactly. But two quick things. Melchior said his shoulder pain went away after squatting first thing in the workout consistently. That's good to hear, man. Just ride that wave. Don't ask questions. Just keep doing it. Mr. Stigrid said, do you ever hear the NLP is too extreme or too serious? Yeah, I've heard that a good bit from people just saying, why you don't need to add weight every time. Novices can't handle weight increases every time in their gym. I think it's a big perspective thing. People kind of assume the worst and they'll think you're just going to jump straight to like a 135 squat, where most people can't even start there. Like some people can if they're lucky, but you're not. I think that's all up to the coach. It's all up to the coach. And if it's not the coach, it's up to that person if they're dumb or not, So if the person's going to add 10 pounds every session and then grind themselves to dust in 2 weeks, or let's say 2 months when they shouldn't be doing that, then that's their own fault. Oh yeah, Stephen Louis brought up a very good point. Follow Chase_Lindley. You can find me at my website. We'll put that down below. I do a lot of online coaching. If you want some online coaching, if you want to argue about programming, you can hit me up there. Send me an email, anything like that. But that was it. We'll be back next week. We'll figure out what the topic is. We'll send out an email about it beforehand. But please subscribe if you are not. We have most of our viewers, like 60% of our viewers, are not subscribed. So do your due diligence. Hit the subscribe button and send this to a friend. Thank you very much for watching, guys. Bye.
See ya.